On a crowded airplane, I watched a man lean into his girlfriend and call her disgusting for something as small as moving her feet. She whispered, "Sorry," again and again, each one weaker than the last, while the rest of us sat frozen. When we landed, I couldn't stop myself. I followed her into the bathroom and told her the only words I could: "You deserve better." She ran out in tears, and for hours I hated myself, wondering if I had only made things worse. That moment ripped open scars from my own past, with an ex who slammed doors, gaslit me into silence, and once shoved me against the fridge while hissing that no one else would ever want me. It reminded me of my friend's sister, who vanished into an abusive relationship for years, and my coworker Jake, whose girlfriend humiliated him daily in our office breakroom. Abuse doesn't always leave bruises. It hides in whispers, sarcasm, and stolen laughter. Days later, I got a message that floored me. The woman on the plane had left him. Relief came first, then guilt. Did I save her or just ease my conscience? That's the story I'm about to tell you, and it begins right here. Don't you ever point your feet at me. You're disgusting. That was the first thing I heard on the airplane, and it sliced through the white noise of the cabin like a knife. The man in front of me leaned so close to his girlfriend that their faces almost touched. His finger jabbed toward her nose as if he were passing down a verdict. His voice wasn't loud, but it was sharp enough that half our row heard it. She shrank into her seat and whispered, "Sorry," once, twice, over and over, until her words sounded like an echo stuck in a tunnel. He hissed again, this time adding, "In other countries, you'd be beaten for disrespecting like that." His tone was chilling, the kind of fake calm that's worse than shouting. She nodded like a scolded child, as if he were right, as if his cruelty was a history lesson she needed to memorize. I sat frozen, soda cans sweating in my hand, while my stomach boiled with the urge to speak. My mind screamed, if I open my mouth, will he explode? If I stay silent, am I just another coward letting it happen? Every person around them went stiff, like passengers on a hijacked flight. No one dared move. It was the silence of complicity, 30,000 feet above the ground. When we landed, my heart hadn't stopped pounding. The logical part of me begged to let it go, walk away, collect my luggage. But my feet didn't listen. They followed her to the women's bathroom. I found her by the mirror, dabbing at her eyes, and my voice cracked as I said, "Relationships aren't supposed to feel like that. You deserve better." She blinked, as though I'd spoken a foreign language. "What?" she whispered. I repeated myself, and she bolted out of the bathroom with tears streaking her cheeks. I was left staring at my reflection, ashamed of how little I'd done and terrified that I'd only made it worse. That night, the words looped in my head. Did I cross a line? Sleep didn't come easy. Every time I closed my eyes, the girl's face blurred into mine at 17 years old. Back then, I thought surviving a temper tantrum meant surviving love. My high school boyfriend had a voice that could crack glass. He'd yell until the walls rattled, slam doors so hard neighbors came knocking. His favorite phrase? "You're too sensitive. If you don't want me to yell, stop making me angry." Gaslighting 101, though I didn't know the word then. I believed him. I thought my emotions were the problem. So I adapted. I learned to apologize for things I hadn't done. If he was mad about traffic, I said sorry. If he was angry about grades, I said sorry. It was easier to carry guilt than to face the storm. But storms escalate. One day, he cornered me in the kitchen, slammed me against the fridge, and pressed his palm to my chest like a weight. He hissed that no one else would ever want me. My lungs rattled, my ribs bruised. That sound of the fridge door slam still lives in me. That was my breaking point. I grabbed a duffel bag, called my mom, and walked out. But even walking out, I thought I was abandoning him. That's how twisted it gets. So when I saw the girl on the plane apologize for her feet, I felt like I was watching my past replayed. I wanted to grab her and say, "It doesn't stop here, it only gets worse." Because the truth is, abuse doesn't stop at whispers. It builds to shouts, to slams, to blows. And I knew that firsthand. Which leaves me asking you, Would you stay if they hurt you just once? Most people do. I almost did, and I thank God every day I didn't. A week later, I was sitting across from my friend Sam, male, 31 years old, in a coffee shop that smelled faintly of burnt croissants. I spilled the airplane story, my guilt, my paralysis. Sam didn't laugh. He didn't say I was overreacting. Instead, he leaned back and said quietly, "My mom used to tell my sister, if he hits you once, he'll hit you again. No exceptions."
His voice wavered, and then he told me something I hadn't known. His sister had been trapped in a 5-year relationship with a man who made it his mission to erase her. He convinced her we were the toxic ones, Sam whispered, his eyes glistening. He cut her off from all of us. She hasn't called in years. It's like she vanished into him. The words sank like stones in my chest. The worst part? His sister was still with that man, still ghosting her entire family, still living in the cage. Abuse is patient. It doesn't need fists. It just needs time. Time to cut you off, to brainwash you into thinking your family's the enemy, your friends are jealous, your life outside doesn't matter. It's death by isolation. Hearing Sam's story made my stomach curdle. His sister's silence mirrored the silence on that plane. We all watched. No one stepped in, and the silence stretched long enough for someone's soul to disappear. It left me questioning myself again. Should I have trusted my instincts sooner? Because maybe if we act earlier, the cage never locks. The truth is, abuse doesn't only live in homes or on planes. Sometimes it walks into your office with a smile. My coworker Jake, male, 28 years old, had a girlfriend who visited him every lunch break. At first, it looked sweet, partners grabbing lunch together, until she opened her mouth. She'd spend 45 minutes tearing into him while he unwrapped his sandwich. "You're useless. You'd be nothing without me. Why do you even try?" Her voice carried across the break room like a megaphone. Jake would sit there, chewing slowly, his eyes downcast, as though if he didn't move too much, the verbal bullets might miss him. The rest of us stopped eating in the break room. It was unbearable, like watching someone drown while you hold a lifebuoy and pretend not to see. Sometimes she'd throw in sarcasm, laugh, then go back to insulting him. And Jake would just nod, like he believed her, like her cruelty was a meal he deserved to swallow every day. Abuse doesn't always leave bruises. Sometimes it leaves invisible scars etched in the silence of your coworkers. And every time I saw him shrink, I thought of that girl on the plane. I thought of my 17-year-old self against the fridge. And I hated myself for my cowardice. Because here's the million-dollar question. Would you step in if you saw someone being bullied? We like to think we would, but most of us don't. One night, all those ghosts, mine, Jake's, Sam's sisters, the airplane girls, collided in a dream. I was back on the plane. The man was jabbing his finger at his girlfriend, but this time he turned around, locked eyes with me, and snarled, "You think you're better than me?" His voice was sharp enough to cut through metal. Suddenly, the entire plane turned to watch me. Every passenger's gaze burned like headlights, waiting for my move. My throat tightened, my mouth dry. In the dream, I stood up. "Stop it," I shouted. But he rose too, towering, his face red with rage. The cabin lights flickered, people gasped, and then he laughed, a low, guttural laugh. "You don't get it," he sneered. "She needs me. Without me, she's nothing." That laugh jolted me awake, sweat soaking my sheets, my heart jackhammering. I stared at the ceiling fan spinning shadows across the walls and thought, maybe if I'd screamed at him on the real plane, I would have made it worse. Maybe he would have taken it out on her later. But maybe I could have stopped him too. And then the darkest thought. If a stranger had told 17-year-old me that my boyfriend was abusive, I would have defended him. I would have said, "You don't understand him like I do." That's the trap. Love turns bars into safety nets. And I wondered over and over, is gaslighting worse than betrayal? Because betrayal at least feels external. Gaslighting makes you betray yourself. My own breaking point didn't come with a slap. It came on a Sunday visit home when my mom looked at me across the kitchen table and said softly, You laugh less now. Just 3 words. No intervention, no lecture, just observation. I broke. Tears poured out of me as I confessed everything. Every slam, every insult, every whispered lie I'd swallowed. And my mom just held me. That was the moment I believed I wasn't crazy, that I deserved better. That's why I spoke up in that airport bathroom. Because sometimes the smallest words, "you laugh less now," or "you deserve better," become anchors that pull someone back to shore. And then, the twist I didn't expect. Days later, my phone buzzed with a message from an unknown Instagram account. My heart skipped as I opened it. Just one sentence. "Thank you for what you said on the plane." It was her. She had left him. Relief surged through me like a tidal wave. But then dread crept in. What if she hadn't left? What if he'd punished her for even hearing me? And the question chewed at me like acid. Is silence ever the better option?
The truth is, leaving isn't a straight road. It's a maze lined with apologies and flowers. My ex once showed up at my door with roses, sobbing that he had lost control. For a split second, I almost believed him. That's how thin the line is. One heartbeat and you're back inside the cage. That's what terrifies me most for that girl. Abusers don't just yell. They rewrite love until cruelty feels like care. They make you crave the very person who's destroying you. And yet, I still replay the moments. Jake's silent lunches, Sam's sister's unanswered calls, the stranger's tears in an airport bathroom. They haunt me. And when I sit in those memories too long, one question always comes. Would you rather be alone than trapped? For me, the answer is yes. For too many others, it isn't. Here is the truth I've learned. Abuse thrives in silence, and silence is the easiest choice. I will never know if my words saved her or if she saved herself. But I know this. Abuse doesn't always look like broken bones. Sometimes it looks like a coworker humiliated at lunch. Sometimes it looks like a girl apologizing for her feet. Sometimes it looks like a teenager staring at a fridge door, convinced she deserved it. And that's when I realized she was never the problem.